Every so often, a vehicle appears that rewrites what we think a compact off-roader can be. Not with brute strength, but with sheer purpose. It is small, purposeful, and engineered with clarity of mission. It doesn't rely on size to earn respect. It earns it by mastering balance, traction, and mechanical honesty. Long before social media turned adventure into an aesthetic, this little machine was already climbing mountains, crossing rivers, and inspiring a generation of drivers who believed capability could come in small packages. Its shape was simple. Its mission, absolute. It proved that innovation is not always about adding more, but refining what matters most. This is the story of a machine that began as a necessity, evolved through decades of precision, and became a cultural touchstone of functional design. Before we dive into how it all began, hit like, subscribe, and comment below which classic off-roader you want us to cover next. In 1970, Suzuki introduced the Jimny LJ10, a machine that looked like a toy but moved like a tool. It was Japan's first lightweight four-wheel drive built purely for off-road work, a vehicle born not from luxury ambition but from the realities of post-war infrastructure and tight K-car regulations. The Jimny LJ10 did not appear out of nowhere. Its lineage began in a Japan rebuilding itself, where rural communities needed mobility that could reach beyond paved roads. Suzuki, already known for small motorcycles and compact cars, understood the physics of lightness better than anyone. When the company acquired the rights to a tiny off-road prototype from Hope Motor Company, it saw potential in simplicity. Engineers set out to refine that concept into something reliable, repeatable, and resilient. The result was the LJ10, a two-stroke, 359 cubic centimeters, air-cooled vehicle that produced just 25 horsepower. But what it lacked in raw numbers, it made up for with clever geometry and minimal mass. Its ladder frame, leaf springs, and solid axles gave it real off-road credentials. The LJ10's wheelbase was only 79 inches, making it as nimble as a mountain goat. With a curb weight of barely 1,300 pounds, it could climb, crawl, and cross terrain that heavier rivals could not. In Japan, it fit neatly within K-car size and tax rules, making it both affordable and practical. To understand its impact, you must consider the Japanese landscape of the late 1960s. Narrow mountain trails, unpaved rural routes, and farm paths where conventional trucks bogged down. The LJ10 became a mobile solution for farmers, foresters, and explorers. It was functional mobility, not fashion. What made it truly revolutionary was its focus on design restraint. Suzuki engineers refused to add weight or decoration. Every panel, every bolt, served a purpose. The removable canvas top kept it light. The flat hood and boxy shape improved visibility and approach angles. The narrow track allowed it to thread through tight spaces, where larger vehicles simply could not fit. Its simplicity made it easy to repair in the field. Its reliability made it trustworthy. Yet, beneath this practicality lay a quiet boldness. No Japanese manufacturer had previously dared to build something this focused on off-road ability. It was a statement of intent. Japan could compete in a segment dominated by larger, established names from other continents. Still, success was not guaranteed. The first Jimny LJ10 appealed mostly to niche buyers, government agencies, farmers, and those who needed a specialized workhorse. Suzuki knew that to sustain the model, it had to evolve the formula without betraying its purpose. Through 1972, the LJ20 arrived with water cooling and small refinements. Exports began to reach markets across Asia and even into Europe. Drivers who encountered the Jimny LJ10 were often surprised by its confidence on terrain usually reserved for full-sized 4x4s. In the 1970s, the global automotive world was shifting toward comfort and style, yet this tiny off-roader moved in the opposite direction. It had no luxury appointments, no unnecessary features. It was engineered for endurance and agility. The LJ10's charm came from that raw honesty. It didn't pretend to be something it wasn't. In Japan's crowded urban spaces, it represented freedom. On rugged ground, it symbolized capability. Suzuki quickly realized that they had created something more than a utility tool. They had created a personality. Its proportions made it unintimidating, yet its performance commanded respect. The Jimny LJ10's presence started to influence how people viewed compact vehicles. It was proof that you did not need size to achieve substance. Its export story, though small at first, planted the seeds for a global reputation. As Suzuki prepared to refine the concept for new markets, the LJ10 served as a living experiment, a laboratory on wheels. The lessons learned from its mechanical simplicity and agility would form the DNA of every Jimny to follow. This first chapter is not about nostalgia. It is about clarity of purpose. The LJ10 set the template for how Suzuki approached off-road engineering. Purposeful, efficient, and pure. But how did this tiny K-class vehicle grow from a domestic utility tool into a worldwide cult phenomenon? To find that out, we need to explore how Suzuki evolved the concept beyond Japan's borders and into the world stage. By the mid-1970s, the Suzuki Jimny LJ10 had already proven itself as a dependable micro off-roader in Japan. But Suzuki was thinking beyond local utility. The next challenge was adaptation. Taking the lessons of the LJ10 and refining them into a machine that could thrive on a global scale. This meant not just more power or comfort, but the same elemental spirit tuned for broader conditions. The evolution began with the LJ20 and later the LJ50 and LJ80 series, each a careful step forward. These successors kept the same ladder frame architecture and solid axles that defined the LJ10 but added refinements in cooling, reliability, and user comfort. As regulations shifted and export opportunities opened, Suzuki understood that maintaining the Jimny's essential DNA was more valuable than chasing trends. In 1977, when the LJ80 appeared with a four-stroke engine, it represented a major leap. It was still compact, still light, but now more familiar to drivers used to conventional vehicles. With its broader stance, metal doors, and increased displacement, the LJ80 bridged the gap between the raw LJ10 and the global expectations of a real 4x4. It was in this period that the Jimny's reputation began to grow outside Japan. In Europe, Australia, and parts of South America, enthusiasts and rural workers discovered its mix of charm and grit. It was not a powerhouse. It was an honest, mechanical partner. It could be serviced with basic tools, driven through narrow trails, and towed behind small campers. It found favor among people who valued independence over luxury. Meanwhile, Suzuki watched as other manufacturers attempted to scale down their off-roaders, often compromising strength in the process. The Jimny refused to compromise. Its small size was its greatest strength. When larger SUVs began to dominate urban streets, Suzuki doubled down on compact capability. In 1981, the second-generation SJ30 and later SJ410 arrived, bringing the concept into modern times while retaining the spiritual framework of the LJ10. The Jimny name became synonymous with efficiency and adventure. For many drivers, this was their first taste of true four-wheel drive freedom. What made this evolution remarkable was the consistency of Suzuki's engineering philosophy. Each generation of the Jimny carried the lessons of the LJ10: lightweight, short overhangs, durable axles, and minimal electronics. The simplicity that defined the original remained a selling point decades later. The LJ10's foundational idea had become a guiding principle. Even when markets demanded more comfort, Suzuki balanced it against the risk of diluting what made the vehicle special. The Jimny never pretended to be something it was not. During the 1980s and 1990s, while larger rivals pursued power and luxury, the Jimny refined toughness through precision. It became a favorite for adventurers who sought real capability in a small footprint. It was a paradox. Tiny, yet fearless. Owners learned that less weight often meant more agility, that fewer frills meant fewer failures. The global Jimny identity took shape in this period, and it all traced back to the first LJ10's clarity of design. The vehicle's popularity grew in developing regions where reliability was critical. It also found a home in urban areas, where its compact size made it easy to live with day to day. The same traits that made the LJ10 practical for Japanese mountain villages made its descendants equally suited for global exploration. By maintaining that mechanical honesty, Suzuki built a loyal following that spanned continents. Even the critics who dismissed it as underpowered found themselves charmed by its tenacity. In off-road competitions and recreational events, the Jimny earned respect through performance, not specifications. Its ability to handle conditions far harsher than its numbers suggested was its secret weapon. Each generation was an incremental evolution rather than a revolution, and that deliberate pacing was key to its authenticity. This was no corporate marketing exercise. It was the result of engineers refining the same core principles year after year. The LJ10's spiritual blueprint guided every decision, proving that design integrity can endure through changing eras. As the decades passed, the world's automotive landscape became more complex. Electronics, emissions, and consumer preferences reshaped every segment. Yet somehow, the Jimny held its course. It evolved just enough to meet modern standards but never abandoned its essence. That continuity is rare in automotive history, and it set the stage for something few expected. A 21st century revival that would bring the humble LJ10's legacy roaring back into focus. In the next segment, we will see how the same DNA that defined the 1970 Suzuki Jimny LJ10 carried forward into the modern era, influencing not just the vehicle's design but the very culture of off-road enthusiasm. When the modern era arrived, most off-road vehicles had evolved into luxury machines, far removed from their rugged beginnings. But Suzuki held on to the lessons of the 1970 Jimny LJ10 and quietly prepared for a rebirth. The 1998 Jimny, known as the third generation, marked a turning point. It embraced safety and refinement without abandoning the LJ10's original concept of lightweight and pure mechanical focus. Underneath, it still used a ladder frame, solid axles, and a part-time four-wheel drive system. Features most automakers had long abandoned in favor of comfort. The world had changed, yet the Jimny's formula remained timeless. This continuity became its superpower. By staying small and true to its mission, Suzuki built something that felt increasingly rare in a market obsessed with size and luxury. The compact dimensions that once made the LJ10 practical in Japanese villages now made the modern Jimny ideal for crowded cities. Its minimalist approach translated perfectly into a world rediscovering efficiency and authenticity. Off-roaders admired its capability. Urban drivers appreciated its character. The LJ10's DNA was now global currency. The modern Jimny's charm lay in its honesty. It did not chase horsepower wars or futuristic styling. It celebrated mechanical purity. Drivers who remembered the LJ10 recognized its silhouette in the short overhangs, upright pillars, and square wheel arches. Every generation that followed kept the same visual signature because it was not design nostalgia. It was functional geometry perfected in 1970. Each angle served a reason. Better visibility, improved approach, and simple manufacturing. When the 2018 fourth-generation Jimny debuted, it became an instant sensation. It was unmistakably modern yet unapologetically mechanical. The automotive world was deep into a digital revolution, and yet here was a brand new machine that embodied analog adventure. The press compared it to the minimalist icons of history, but those comparisons missed the deeper truth. This was not retro, it was continuity. The same ladder frame principle, the same short wheelbase agility, the same philosophy of lightness that made the LJ10 legendary still lived beneath the surface. It was an evolution that refused to lose its center of gravity, both literally and philosophically. Enthusiasts celebrated its return because it offered something authentic. The modern Jimny's success wasn't just about nostalgia, it was about relevance. In a world overrun with software, it reminded people that real control still mattered, that simplicity still had power. Off-road reviewers pushed it to its limits and found that its traction, articulation, and balance rivaled far larger and costlier machines. The engineering roots of the LJ10, its mechanical purity, proved themselves yet again, nearly 50 years later. But beyond performance, the Jimny had grown into a cultural statement. It represented the idea that progress and tradition could coexist. Owners personalized them, overland with them, and celebrated their quirks. Its small size turned from necessity to identity. For many, owning a Jimny was like joining a global community of minimalists who believed capability should be measured by performance, not presence. The spirit of the LJ10, born from regulation and resourcefulness, had transformed into a symbol of freedom. What began as a pragmatic solution for farmers and foresters had become a badge of authenticity in a digital age. And that is the power of consistency. The 1970 Suzuki Jimny LJ10's influence had traveled through generations, shaping design decisions, inspiring engineers, and connecting enthusiasts across continents. Few vehicles can claim such a lineage. Even as emissions rules tighten and electrification rises, Suzuki continues to adapt the same foundational architecture to meet the times. The world that once viewed small off-roaders as curiosities now recognizes their value. Lightweight design means efficiency. Simplicity means reliability. These were not retro ideals. They were forward-thinking ideas long before the industry realized it. As modern buyers rediscover the appeal of compact, go-anywhere capability, the original LJ10 stands as proof that true innovation sometimes means staying faithful to your roots. And so, as the story comes full circle, the question shifts from where the Jimny came from to what it means today. Because the LJ10 did more than launch a product line, it launched a philosophy that continues to outlast trends, reminding us that the purest form of progress is endurance. The story of the 1970 Suzuki Jimny LJ10 is more than a chapter in off-road history. It is a blueprint for how purpose-built design can transcend time. What began as a small, air-cooled experiment in rural Japan became one of the longest-running success stories in automotive engineering. The LJ10's purpose was simple: create a lightweight four-wheel drive vehicle that could go anywhere. That single-minded mission defined every decision Suzuki made for the next 5 decades. Its ladder frame, simple drivetrain, and compact footprint were not compromises. They were the foundation of a lasting identity. The LJ10 taught the industry that power does not always equal performance, and that the right balance of geometry, traction, and weight can outshine brute force. Every generation that followed carried its DNA forward. The LJ20 refined cooling. The LJ80 introduced a 4-stroke engine. The SJ series took the design global. The modern Jimny, with its advanced safety systems and enduring mechanical heart, stands as a tribute to that legacy. Even today, enthusiasts who drive a Jimny, no matter the year, are experiencing a direct connection to the 1970 original. Few vehicles can make that claim. The lesson is clear: simplicity is not a weakness. It is a form of engineering strength. The Jimny LJ10 was born out of necessity but achieved greatness through restraint. Suzuki never lost sight of the idea that a vehicle's purpose defines its value. As technology races forward and vehicles become more complex, the LJ10 remains a reminder that clarity of purpose never ages. It does not rely on nostalgia to remain relevant. It relies on proof, the kind found in decades of real-world endurance. The mountains it climbed in 1970 still stand, and so does the idea that started it all. The 1970 Suzuki Jimny LJ10 was not just the beginning of a series. It was the beginning of a belief system. That freedom should fit in small spaces, that utility can be beautiful, and that honest engineering will always find its audience. So when you see a modern Jimny tracing a line across a desert, through a forest, or over a city curb, remember where that confidence began. It began with the LJ10. Small in size, massive in influence, and still proving that less can truly do more.